We can start. So welcome all again to this meeting. That's the official launch of the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT community. I'm very glad to host you here. I'll be moderating the meeting. My name is Maria Giuffrida, for those who don't know me. I'm a senior researcher at Trust IT. And I must say in the very beginning that this is a joint event, a joint meeting, co-organized not only by myself, but also by colleagues at Martel, and more specifically Catarina Pereira, who is a senior communication and dissemination manager at Martel Innovate, and also co-leads the communication task force. Open Continuum and EUCEI are two projects that we are both representing today, and we are, let's say, the organizers of this joint umbrella initiative, EU Cloud-Edge-IoT, short name for the European Cloud Edge and IoT Continuum, which was indeed requested by the Commission to put together the vibrant communities of the cloud, edge, IoT, and related technologies that are merging together toward the continuum. This event is being recorded, so you should already have received the warning that, of course, we are recording this. I would like to ask you to please stay muted. So I will mute you for the moment, so there is no noise. But if you have any questions or you would like to speak, feel free to raise your hand and I will give you the floor whenever possible. Also, we will have a Q&A session at the end. However, you are very welcome to ask your questions anytime you want in the chat, so you can use the chat, or if there is any question that comes to your mind even later on after this meeting, you can mail us at info@eucloud-edge-iot.eu. And also I want to invite you to actually follow the initiative on Twitter and LinkedIn. Our name is EU Cloud-Edge-IoT. And you can use also the hashtag if you want to spread the word, and feel free to share your experience about joining today or also in the future. Share your thoughts about being part of this community that's growing starting from today and also in the future. So let's have a quick look at the agenda, how we thought of structuring this first official online meeting. We're going to have a introduction where there will be the presentation of the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT initiative. We'll also have a look at who's here today. We have a lot of projects, and we're very glad that you responded positively. Then we'll have a 30-minute session to present our cooperation mechanisms, so the task forces. We have 6 different task forces that will be presented by task force leaders or other people in the projects on different topics that you see mentioned in the slide. And at the end of this presentation of all the task forces, we will share with you already a few tips on how you can more actively be part and be integrated in the community. Then we'll have the official Q&A session, but as I said, feel free to ask the questions anytime in the chat, and then we'll conclude with also an online group photo. So I've dropped in the chat EU Cloud-Edge-IoT background. Feel free to use it and put it as your background so we can also activate it later on when you activate the camera for doing the picture. So that's all. I think it's time to leave the floor for the introduction, and it's my pleasure to introduce Albert Subers, who is director at Martel Innovate and also the coordinator of one of the 2 CSA I mentioned before, namely Open Continuum. So Albert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria and Catarina, for organizing this first meeting, community meeting. I think it shows the number of people participating, how important it is that we organize this, and I'm looking forward to have the presentations of the task forces. So, but if we look at what was the intention here, there were 2 CSAs, as Maria already referred to, Open Continuum and EUCEI, from covering the demand and supply side of the research initiatives in this Cloud Edge IoT continuum. And there is a definite need, as we imagined and witnessed when we are meeting with the underlying or the cooperative research initiatives. There is a definite need for support and cooperation, because everybody's working on the great ideas that we need to develop. But there is a pathway for an understanding of the developments we're doing and understanding what are our other research initiatives working on, so we can start and promote this cooperation. So this is why EUCEI and Open Continuum joined forces in close conversation and collaboration with the EC. We started this initiative to build a community to promote cooperation between the research projects, the developers, but also to contribute to coordination of the portfolio in what we are working on. And we started with the MetaOS project, Meta Operating Systems project for the next generation IoT and edge cloud computing. But we saw there's many more, so we built on top of this. On the next slide, we can see that with already existing initiatives working from next generation IoT and Horizon Cloud. We build it together because on this Cloud-Edge-IoT continuum, we are bringing together next generation IoT and the cloud initiatives. So this cooperation is to work together on various topics, and this is why we've created this compute and community that will support and has the initiatives to support more of the developments and exchange of ideas and innovation, and to start an optimized cooperation here. If we look at the next slide, we saw here, so there's two initiatives, supply and demand, as I mentioned. Then there is the next slide. We see the sort of timeline that we have the MetaOS projects, the cognitive cloud, and the swarm computing that we build on, working with. And then there's additional, the carryover from the ICT 56 and ICT 40 project, cloud software on cloud initiatives and IoT. And now we are together here today with, next slide, already 30 projects in our community, and we are growing the community. So I invite you to spread the word and invite others that you work with to join this community, because the task forces are here to collaborate with you, to cooperate with you, but also to support you and make sure that we are jointly working on the promise that we made together to the EC of a new edge IoT cloud compute continuum. So as an introduction, I hope this is a kickoff for more meetings that we'll have soon, working on the different task forces, working with you on the researches that we are working on at the moment. So looking forward to the future working with you together. Thank you. Maria, please. The task forces here, they will already mention 1 to 6, but it's important. Strategic liaisons, interoperability approaches that we need to focus on. Open source is important. Open standards. Architecture, there's a lot of discussions always on taxonomy, how we name things, the architecture. So there's a specific task force to help and support collaboration to create from a reference architecture, support you how to build solution architectures for the research project. The ecosystem that we need is very important because we work with market and industry partners. We work with other research institutes. We need to have an open eye for everything that's working and supporting us in the world here. Markets, we're not on our own. There's results that need to be used in the market, so we have to build in the demand side and make sure that we respond to their needs. And as today, this is organized by the Joint Task Force of Communications, led by Maria and Katarina here today. So we'll be hearing more from you, and you will be hearing more from us on communication and collaboration as we start this community. So I'm looking forward to the details of the task forces, and I hope you enjoyed the hour and leave the questions to be answered to the end, because I hope we have a discussion there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert. So I see already some people commenting in the slide. We'll be back to you in the chat. The next session, as I mentioned, is organized as short presentation of each task forces, 5 minutes per task force, more or less. So let me start with introducing our next speakers to present Task Force 1, Strategic Liaisons. And it's Eugenia Kypriotis, Senior Project Manager at Martel, also supporting the coordination of Open Continuum. So Eugenia, you can go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone. I'm Eugenia Kypriotis. I'm working in Martel and supporting Open Continuum exactly as Maria has already shared with you. Actually, I'm presenting Task Force 1, the Strategic Liaisons, on behalf of our partner in Open Continuum, Paolo Azzoni from Inside, who unfortunately could not make it today. So Task Force 1, this is the first, let's say, task force of the 6, the Strategic Liaisons. Actually, we have promised the liaising with the EU alliances towards the open system. It is led by Paolo Azzoni inside Industry Association, as I've already told you. You may also inside as Artemis IA, as this was their former name. There are also other partners both from EUCEI and Open Continuum participating, like Trust IT, VDI, VDE, and Trialog. And of course, as I already said, it's one of the 6 forces. The main role of this task force is the liaison with the EU alliances towards an open ecosystem, the management of interactions with the AIoTI, ECS, Gaia X, and more, and the sharing of academic and technological outputs, support of common publications and conference papers, for example. Next, please, Maria. So the objective of this task force is to, as it has already been mentioned, the liaison with EU initiatives, organizations, and alliances involved in the edge-to-cloud continuum, to identify the actors shared between these EU initiatives, to identify the common ground for the computing continuum, to share and promote results of the strategic analysis prepared in Open Continuum, and to share the results of the liaison activities with separate tasks in Open Continuum. The intentions of this task force is to organize meetings and workshops for those participating in the task force, to have an active cooperation with the EUCEI, as it has already been explained. This is already settled, so that we can identify and define common objectives between the 2 projects, and of course have a monthly synchronizations. And in the end, eventually, we would like all this work to deliver a white paper. Next, please, Maria. Thank you. So we are happy that we have the opportunity to meet you all here, because we would like to invite you to join our task force. We believe that by joining Task Force 1, you will have the chance to expand and strengthen the network of peers within Europe, and that you will also help the shaping of the future of the edge-to-a-cloud continuum by sharing the vision of your project. What would be expected from you? Actually, the plan is to have quarterly meetings. Of course, there may be a need for more. The co-editing of the white paper and the co-organization of the workshops, as we already discussed, this white paper will be the final product of all this work done in Task Force 1. And you can consider yourselves as a member of the management staff and of organizations operating in the edge-to-cloud continuum, and in technical communities, scientific councils, or communication staff in this domain. Last, this task force will be active until December 2024. Next slide, please, Maria. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Eugenia, for the presentation of the first task force. We will go on with the next task force on open source engagement, which is led by Rosaria Rossini, who's also a PhD in computer science. So, of course, reason also why she's expert in leading this. She's from Eclipse Foundation, a member of Open Continuum Consortium. So, Rosaria, I leave the floor to you to present your task force.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Maria. Can you hear me? Okay, I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Okay, here we are with Task Force 2, that is about open source engagement. We have a couple of main main topics that are strategies for engaging open source community, successful open source launch, and one of the most important part is the best practice, technical tool and requirements for open source. And then an important aim that we have is foster energies across research projects, because we are going to work together. So the key objectives of this task force are the development strategy for European digital autonomy in edge to cloud through open source, contribute to the definition of a common open architecture for the computing continuum. In this case, we will work with Task Force 3. We will promote the potential of open source as an innovation and collaboration driver, and we enlighten industry and research stakeholders on the benefit of a long-term open source strategies. So as you can see, open source is the main part of this task force. If you can go to the next slide, because looking at the numbers, we can say that all the consuming open source product, or the consuming product that you have as a software, for the 80% is open source. So we have from the 80 to 90% that your application is made by open source. But the problem is, and here we come with the best practice, that only the 44% contributing back, but we will see that during our journey with the task force. Then what does it mean join our task force, the activity and the effort that we need? So we have two main activities. That is a periodic synchronization that will be done by collaborative tools for sharing knowledge like Miro, Google Drive. Of course, online meeting that maybe should be quarterly, but we will organize together. And then we will have task force mailing list, of course, for having a sharing broadcasting news and information. Then we have the second important activity, that is a dedicated task force events that could be co-located with big dissemination events like IoT Week, IPIC, EclipseCon, SEM IoT, Eclipse SEM, for example, this year is Cloud-to-Edge, and then organized by European Cloud-Edge and IoT, so our CSA. If you can go on, please. Okay, so focusing on the outcomes, we will have a guidance and a white paper. I cite here the terminology, let's say, the definition of white paper. That is a report or a guide that informs readers concisely about a complex issue and presents the issuing body's philosophy on the matter. It is meant to help readers understand an issue, solve a problem, or make a decision. I know that you know that, but I won't like to emphasize this, because we are here to observe you, to extract from you the best solution, and made with you the best solution for a possible strategy for European digital autonomy in edge to cloud through open source. So we are here also to help you if you need. And then the last outcome will be having an open source workshop, presentation, demos, and hackathon. So thank you for being here, and that's it for us.
Thank you very much, Rosaria. So as you see, we are dedicating these slots to show you the characteristics and also the differences and the different organization of each task force, so you can see which of them basically matches better with your own project work plans and activities. And so you start getting an idea of if you'd like to somehow contribute depending on how the task force is structured. So it's now time to move to Task Force 3 on architecture. This will be presented by Lara Lopez from Atos, also a member of Open Continuum project. So Lara, if you can activate your mic and camera.
Yes, thank you, Maria. Hope you can hear me well. So if you can go to the next one.
Yes.
So basically, this task force is about developing a common taxonomy that will be used for all projects. So this is something that we must agree between all of us. And The initial idea is that everybody is using the same names for calling the same things. So we don't have this gap between telco, IoT, or cloud architects that are dealing with the same names for different things. The second main objective is to identify and categorize an architecture based on building blocks. That is something that has been already done for the data pipeline that you have. You can probably see it on Fireware because they are using it. So we can have an homogenized reference architecture for the continuum. Within this architecture can be mapped with the different projects. I will explain you later how you can do it and how we will deal with it. This architecture aims to position Europe in the continuum arena, opposite to what others are doing. So we will try to standardize the architecture and the taxonomy and our point of view, or the point of view of the different research projects. So everybody can work with it, identify the future challenge or different things that can be implemented that are not covered right now. Another idea that we have is the possibility of setting components, because as you know, the MetaOS projects, the cognitive and the Swarm ones must be related and can be done as a plug and play between all of them. So if possible, at least to foster the collaboration or the knowledge transfer, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel again and again if someone else is doing something similar. And finally, we have the potential new use cases that can arise and can be developed within your open calls or not. But these two ones, let's say, that are potential things that can be done, but the most important ones are the first three. So if you go to the next one, Maria, please. Here you can see the initial building blocks that are on the data pipeline that has been proposed with the different things that can be done on the cloud, on the edge, or on the IoT side, mainly related to the data. But what we are missing here is the part of the compute pipeline. So what do we need to do? What the projects need to do or to implement if we want to map everything, if we want to implement these solutions, how we collect, for example, with the placement when we are talking about services, but not only about data. So this is the thing that we must build on top of it. If you go to the next one, please. So starting with the taxonomy, we will have two different activities here. First one is the taxonomy, that is for the continuum that will cover cloud, edge, and IoT in general. Then we can see if we can add something different or something additional, more related to, for example, security or artificial intelligence. It will be common for all projects, so to be agreed between all of the people who's participating here and to be used. So whenever you write a deliverable or whenever you refer to something, you will refer to this common taxonomy or to this common naming convention. It will be according to the final list of building blocks that will be identified for the different projects and mapped with the 12 building blocks for the data. So if we talk about placement, we must be sure that we talk about the data placement, but also the service placement. The initial blocks or the general ones that are there are for the interoperability, for sovereignty and trust, value creation, and governance. It can be split in smaller ones, as shown in the previous slide. And we will also work in collaboration with the Task Force 5 for the naming convention. So we make sure that the demand side is also working in line with the provision side. How we will participate or how you can participate here. We will organize different terminology workshops so the different projects can provide their point of view on the namings until we find this common agreement. We will structure in different groups, so for not overpopulating these sessions and make sure that everybody can participate. So we will start with the meta operating system projects, then with the cognitive and Swarm, and then with others that are related to other topics. The session format will be using Miro or Mural or any other online tool, so you can write and leave your opinion there. And the groups will be depending on the number of participants. So for example, if for one of the sessions with the cognitive projects, we have 20 participants, we will split it in smaller groups of 5 or 6. So everybody can participate and can discuss. And at the end of the day, we have a fruitful discussion. The results will be this standardized taxonomy that will be documented and will be promoted. And it will be shared with the European Commission to make sure that the Commission is also using our names. If you go to the next one, please. And finally, we will have this reference architecture to be agreed within the different projects. It will be using the names of the taxonomy, of course. It will be also used as a reference for the future work or to identify future research challenges. It's a generic architecture, so it's not a solutions one. So it can be mapped then with your project architecture. You can highlight which functionalities are you adding on top of it, or which components are you developing more. We will have different iterations for different perspectives. So we will have this generic and big one. Then we can include something or components more artificial intelligence oriented, more on the device side, more serverless or fast computing, or even security that is not contemplated initially. We will also have different architecture discussions where everybody can participate in the same groups that we provided before. So the MetaOS projects will be one group, the cognitive and the SWAN one, another one, and other projects that are of course invited will be a different group. The session format will be in offline discussions and online pooling, so everybody can vote and say, okay, I agree with this specific component with these specific functionalities. So this will be promoted to the generic architecture, and the groups will be depending on the expertise. So the expertise means that the people who is more expert on security will participate on this specific layer, on the serverless one, and so on. We will provide this position paper that can be presented in different events, but the most important thing is that we will share this with the European Commission to make sure that we are all aligned and this is taken into consideration for future research. And that's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Clara. So we had a change in the schedule, so we're skipping Task Force 5 because the leader is joining a bit later. Actually, so Brandon is already here, but since we have already the order of the slide change, let's keep it like this. So we'll move to Task Force 5 on markets and sectors. This will be presented by the Task Force leader, Golbu Pur-Abdollahian, Consulting Manager at IDC. Golbu is also the coordinator of the other CSA, so on EUCEI. So Golbu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. So basically, Task Force 5 is focusing, as you can see from the name, on the markets and sectors. So the basic idea of the task force is to bring knowledge and insights to the projects, to the ecosystem about what's happening exactly in the Cloud-Edge-IoT demand landscape in order to make sure that then the solutions that that projects are working on will get aligned with what is really the need of the market. So the lead of the task force is IDC from EUCEI. We have current participants from EUCEI, also from Open Continuum, and from MetaOS project. So basically, this task force, as you can see here, is focused on MetaOS projects, and there are several reasons for that. One of the main reasons is that it's at the level of the use case, and you know that in each project there are at least 3 or 4 use cases. So if you consider a really big portfolio, it's going to be like hundreds of use cases, and it's difficult to bring an added value when it's such a large, community of the use cases. So as instructed by the European Commission, we are supposed to start focusing only on MetaOS projects for now. And then in case in future there will be some relevant use cases from other portfolios, then the Commission will instruct us to include them as well. But for now, we are only focusing on MetaOS projects. So that's why you see here the name of the participants who are from the MetaOS projects. And as I said, we have the use case owners of the project since we are focusing on the use cases. So what are the main topics that we are investigating in this task force? We are focusing to understand the demand market in terms of adoption, in terms of the technology forecast, in terms of the drivers and barriers, in terms of the most relevant use cases. We focus also on use case characterizations to understand the main needs and requirements of of the market for each sector. And we are also aiming to support projects in terms of commercialization, which is going to be at the not at this phase of the task force, but at the later phase of the task force, that also projects will go more forward with their solutions. The key objectives, as I mentioned, is to provide insights and knowledge, because in Unlock, we are focusing on understanding the demand market side for Cloud-Edge IoT, and we want to share this knowledge with the supply side, so with the projects, in order to make sure that we bridge the gap between supply and demand. As I mentioned, we want to also support the projects for their commercial exploitation. What are the main outputs that we expect from this task force? The detailed use case canvas, so the detailed use case design for the projects. We are also targeting to publish and deliver a white paper on the emerging use cases for Cloud-Edge IoT. And finally, to provide some commercialization strategies for projects in order to support them to go to the market. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. What are the, let's see that, where are we standing now and what's our plan for the next few months? So we kicked off Task Force 5 in January. We had our kickoff and first workshop, which basically happened on 16th of January. We engaged MetaOS projects. And in the first phase of this task force, we are targeting to provide support in terms of use case characterization. So to get in touch with the projects, to interact with them in order to together to define more in detail the use cases of the projects. And we are still at this phase. We are going to do the next round of the workshop, which is a co-design workshop of use case characterization next Monday. And then after that, we will do some analysis to let's say extract some insights in order to be able to share it with the projects, and then later on use it as a starting point to write also the white paper about the use cases. Then we will also use the opportunity of the upcoming months to interact with the projects through monthly meetings of the task force, to understand exactly what are their needs that we can address through the interviews that we are going to do with the industrial stakeholders in the market. So that's why that we are planning to do a workshop in March to collect these needs from the project, so that later on when we are going to do the interviews, we make sure that we can get these answers for the projects and give it back to them. And then finally, from April to July, we are planning to have a series of the CI demand market landscape webinar, in which we are going to present the results of the analysis of the big survey that we are now conducting with 700 interviews regarding the Cloud-Edge IoT landscape, and to share it with the projects. So this is the situation for now. And yeah, thank you, Maria. I think that's it.
Thanks, Galbu. So we will go on now with Task Force 6 on communications, and this will be presented by my colleague and co-organizer of this event, Caterina Pereira, Senior Dissemination and Communication Specialist at Martel Novate, and also Communication Manager for Open Continuum side, as I'm representing EUCEI instead. Caterina, over to you.
Thank you, Maria. So as Maria was saying, Task Force 6 is related with communications. Our goal is to amplify the research projects activities, so we will act as multipliers. What we can offer to you, we can offer you being in an AC-powered umbrella initiative, where we've developed co-branding that you can use in your website or together with your logo. We can offer you greater visibility on the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT platform, where we are building a dedicated projects page linking to your individual websites. We will have, starting from March, monthly meetings with roundtables where you can share your activities with your community, sorry. Visibility across all projects, because we are creating a mailing list that after the meeting, we will email to you asking for the contacts that should be here. We are creating a joint repository where you will have templates where you can share your open calls, research papers, social media channels. We plan to organize joint communication activities such as joint events, joint newsletters. I've actually just shared on the chat the subscription form to the news digest. On social media, please tag us so that we can retweet your tweets. And of course, we will support you through the promotion of your activities on our EU Cloud-Edge-IoT channels, such as your open calls, papers, events, surveys, blogs, you name it. What we need from you is very simple. We ask you to join the monthly meetings that will start in March, to send the contacts for the mailing list, and of course inform us, keep us informed about your activities and of course about your communication materials. Who can join? This task force is the most inclusive of them all. So all the relevant projects can join. Mainly, I think it's more relevant that the communication representative joins, but coordinators, technical leaders are also welcomed to join. And that's it for the communications task force. Thanks, Maria.
Thanks, Katarina. And so now we can go to the final task force 4, ecosystem management, which is going to be presented by Brendan Rowan, Managing Consultant for Tech Policy and Skills at BlueSpecs, who is partner of EUCEI Consortium. Brendan,
thanks so much, Maria, and thank you for ruining the order to make sure I can present. So Task Force 4 is very closely related to Task Force 5. So while Task Force 5 is looking at what the outside market will bring into the projects, we're looking at what the projects can do with the outside market. And there's two elements of that. One is related to the open calls. So we will be providing early on some practical support and engagement across the open calls, and also aligning that with the AOTI activities as well in that area. But we will also be changing this focus, as you can see there in 2024, to much more in terms of as the use cases mature and as technology mature, we'll be able to then start bringing that first contact with industry and with potential uptake adopters of these technologies in that way through specific areas. And that is very much on a relationship of where use cases are relevant and also mature enough to be able to reach that, as I say. So that's where Task Force 4 and 5 are kind of two sides of the same coin there as well, which explains why we also have a relationship specifically with the MetaOS projects, as they are the most advanced use cases. But of course, as Golbu has referenced, if there are mature use cases that are ready to start exploring commercial relationships as part of sustainability towards the end of the project, they will also be welcome at that point as well. So we're going to be starting with some open calls activities, because that's going out to SMEs and startups, and we also be looking at how we can build up those kind of collaborative open calls approaches, and also even cross-project open calls based on specific use cases if possible. And we'll be looking at what kind of SMEs are taking up these and analysing what the people who are developing the open calls projects are able to do with technologies, and feed that back into where the market readiness and also the value chain positioning of the technologies that are being developed will be made there in that way as well. And we haven't kicked off yet. We're waiting till everything else settles, but we will be starting that activity towards the end of this month in that way as well. Next slide. How we're going to work is regular calls and catch-up, so fix a fixed date in the calendar. Some of you I can see in the call are familiar with this way of working, just to make sure that we always have that regular contact point. But we will then look at how we can develop specific networking and workshop opportunities that are able to go out to the community, and that will be done in collaboration with Task Force 6. And then finally as well, towards the end, as mentioned, the project, for those use cases that are ready to meet industry and ready to be to build on those potential relationships and piloting towards the end of the project. We'll be having a dedicated workshop towards the end of 2024 in that area there as well. And I think that's it from me, from Task Force 4.
Thank you very much, Brendan, and also thank you to all the speakers who presented so far for giving all the information and also for staying within the time, because we're perfectly on time. Before opening to the discussion, let me just say a few words on practical actions that you can already start doing to join more concretely our community of the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT initiative. So first, an announcement. We are organizing together with the European Commission a consultation meeting, which will be a physical event. Not all details are set yet, so we are finalizing in these very days, and hopefully in the next few weeks everything will be, let's say, defined. And we will give you the invitation to this event, which will be in Brussels in May, with all the information, the date, and the agenda, and everything we plan for that. Of course, you will be invited, and you will be invited to share your experience and your insights, which are relevant for the Commission at this moment, as they're planning also the next working program for next years. You can already start sharing your results and your insights via a questionnaire that my colleagues from Open Continuum have set up. You find here in the slide the link, but then we will share it in the slides when we send you the slides, and we will share also in a follow-up email this questionnaire that you can already fill in to give us more information that will be also helpful to organize the meeting better. Beside from this, you are very welcome to join our monthly communication coordination calls. As Katarina was saying, we will start in March. So let us know if you're interested in attending. There, we will have the opportunity to let you introduce better to the community, share your activities, your priorities, and so, you know, start networking also a little bit more and better. You're also invited, if you want, to add the EU Cloud-Edge-IoT.eu tagline. So like in the example you see from Fluido's website, you can mention you're part of it. Also, we have prepared already a set of branding guidelines that we can share with you in case you want to align. We encourage you to do so. So you can also communicate that you are part of the community. As already said in previous presentations and in the chat, you can subscribe to our news digest. It's the best way to be up to date with every news and every activity that we organize. Also, of course, follow and mention us on both Twitter and LinkedIn. Our name is EU Cloud-Edge-IoT with underscore for Twitter and without underscore for LinkedIn. And also, of course, visit our website. It's going to become, let's say, the reference portal for the whole initiative. And we are setting up a community page where your website will be linked and your project will be presented. So if you have any communication material also related to your logo, your description, etc., come back to us with this info that we can include in the portal. That's all for these initial very quick and easy activities that you can do to be part of the community. We are now officially in the Q&A session. I've seen that you already sent some questions. And if you have more, or if you want to speak and raise your hand, we will give you the floor so that you can share your opinions or your questions, your comments, anything you have. For this part, I'll also, let's say, invite my colleagues if you want to say anything. So Ramon has a question: can one project participate in more than one task forces? Yes, it can. It depends on what interests you most. For sure, the communication is open to join you all, and also some of the others depending on their focus. But of course, yeah, you're welcome in more than one. We will share the slides, John, yes, after this meeting. And also we will share the recording of this event for those of you who want to watch it, or for other people who could not attend today, if you want to share it with colleagues.
Maria, Ignacio Lacalle has his hand up. So Ignacio,
Yep.
if you want to make your question, go ahead.
Hi, it's Nacho here. Thank you very much all for the presentations. I just had a quick question about this announced meeting in May 11th in Brussels. Are you planning to invite all the 30+ projects that are in the call, or is just for those in, say, the MetaOS cluster?
Yeah, so this is going to be a consultation event. The details have not been defined yet, but it's going to be an open event for every project, at least as attendant. Then as speakers, we will see how the agenda goes, but this will be a broad event. Yeah, open
event.
To,
so for
yeah.
all projects mentioned. Okay.
For the community, yes.
Thanks,
the whole
Maria.
community.
I think, Maria, just to add there, just to give clarity, so we're bringing together the NG-IoT projects, the Horizon Cloud projects, the CEI projects. Everyone's invited, but it's bringing together all the previous projects and building on where the gaps are that make up the CEI.
That's great. Thanks.
But it will be, sorry for questioning, so it will be a single day event then?
Yes, it will be
a single day event most probably, and the date is either the 10th or the 11th of May. We're waiting for final confirmation from the EC, because as you can imagine, there are 2 units that have to align. So if you can pre-book those 2 dates, it will be in Brussels. We're working now on agenda and definition of all, logistic aspect, but you are all kindly invited, all your projects, all your partners, and actually the more we are, the best it will be in terms of contamination, just exchange of information, inspiration. Some projects are more or less mature, so please pass this message on as soon as we will know. Katarina, Maria, everyone will be very active to propagate the information. So, and I see a question, what is the purpose of the event in Brussels? Well, you might know that also in the past, the Commission gathered the projects that were funded within the same unit, or let's say technological areas, in order to foster liaisons, synergies, exchange of know-how, and maximize the potential for exploitation also outside your project, let's say, boundaries. This didn't happen for many years because of the COVID situation, so that's what's going to happen again. And also, one of the things that you can expect is that there will be most probably a keynote speaker, but also the Commission might provide more details on the future activities, on the future calls. So it's really much of an event that tries to pull together forces from all organizations that are engaged in this ecosystem. Sorry to jump in, Maria. I thought it was good to give a little bit of an insight for the, because I saw some questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Monique. That's very great. Appreciate it. There are also other questions, but I see also Uwe hands up. So if you can speak, Uwe.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning. Yeah. First of all, congratulations. Excellent, interesting presentations. I have a question, nevertheless. I'm here for the charity project, and we are working on deploying XR service on the edge cloud continuum, and we have nothing to do with IoT. So I'm not fully sure how we could get involved in the activities. As some idea I got is it's more focused on IoT projects. So what would be the things where charity could participate other than in Work Package 6, which is obvious, of course, in communication? Is there, what are your ideas? Maybe you could give me some better understanding of how we could get involved, or if that's nothing for us.
Well, I will give a first answer, and then if other colleagues want to add, feel free. Basically, the idea is that Yeah, we give more focus on the IoT Cloud Edge projects because it's the core, let's say, of the initiative, but also related technologies that are enablers for this continuum are welcome. And the, let's say, expected type of involvement or contribution that each project could give. So for instance, your project, you are, let's say, free to decide based on what's your objectives in the project. So it can also be that maybe your work plan doesn't fit the purpose of any task forces, and so you will be engaged only in task force 6. But it's a matter of maybe reaching out to the task force leader to understand better what synergies can be built. I'm thinking, for instance, also at task force 1 on strategic liaisons. That's more about networking and trying to find common areas to cooperate together. So that could be an option for you also, even if the topics don't overlap precisely. And then the other more technical task forces, it depends, and you can discuss, I think, with task force leaders.
Maria, maybe Giovanni can also add something.
Yes, Giovanni has also his hand raised, so go on, Giovanni.
Yep, thank you. I wanted to also comment on the event that Monique discussed, but on the specific topic of projects like charity. The thing is that this initiative, let's say by the book, is supposed to have in the project portfolio the MetaOS, Cognitive Cloud, and the Swarm Computing projects at the beginning, because it's Horizon Europe and so on. But it was recognized, I think, very early by us and also the Commission, that there are the IoT, software engineering, and cloud projects that have a lot to pass on, right? Because a project like charity is nearing the end of your work, and so you actually have already results and insights that should be, I think, brought in the community. So from my point of view, it's not only about the communication task force, but it's also the input that you can give on the horizontal task forces. So I would say open source if you use it, and architecture most likely. And on the vertical ones like 4 and 5, now we are concentrating on the MetaOS projects because they are the ones that started first. But it would be useful, I think, for us to know your results, your insights that you believe are useful for this community. And on the fact that you are only Cloud Edge and not IoT, this is not a problem, because the continuum is a concept to say that these 3 things are coming together. But specific use cases, specific projects, it's perfectly, understandable and expected that they only cover part of the continuum. I would even say, maybe Golbu or Brendan can correct me if I'm wrong, that in some cases, actually getting to know which use cases match which part of the continuum, where do you need far edge, where it's better to stick with the more powerful cloud edge setup. I think it's very important information to gather. The only thing is that while for the MetaOS and the other Horizon Europe project, we know what to expect, and they are starting now. In the case of the Horizon 2020 project, I invite you to come forward, because we don't know exactly what part of what you did by answering a cloud or IoT call is actually de facto continuum work, right? Because you did the continuum before it was cool, right? So you have to come forward and tell us, hey, we did this, we think is relevant, and then we can organize. This is what I, and connected to this, to complete what Monique said, the consultation meeting is not only about general networking, but also to ask the projects about their insights, if they are like charity, like a project that have already done a lot of work, or their plans, if they're starting now, to get ideas about the research agendas and new themes to go forward with the program after 2025, okay? So this is also very important, and that's why I think I've seen that in the chat has been posted a questionnaire that is only a preliminary step asking you where you see the gaps in research and so on. But the plan is also to have more interactive sessions in the consultation meeting. But given the scale of the project, that to our count are like 42, we are still thinking about how we should organize this event for the interaction part. That's why we are a little bit vague on that. Exactly. For example, do all projects get a chance? Hopefully, yes, but you see, when you have 40, 45, we have to think about how to set it up. Maybe there will be focus groups. We don't know yet. We are discussing this with the Commission. Hope this answers the questions.
Okay, yeah, clarifies a lot. Thanks a lot, Giovanni.
Thank you.
Sorry if I can jump in. Thank you, Giovanni. Just since we are on this topic, and I'm sorry, Harry Laus, I know you had raised your hand, but just in order to just add something else. From Task Force 5 perspective, so Uwe, I think what could be really interesting is that since you're at the end of the project, you have more concrete and mature use cases. So it would be really interesting to have a sort of, lessons learned, knowledge transfer to the other projects, MetaOS projects that just already started, their journey, and they're going to have their use cases. And obviously, now I don't have in mind what's the timing of your project when it's going to end, but obviously then it's going to be also a precious input for the later analysis and the white paper that we are going to generate within the Task Force 5. So so feel free to contact, and we can discuss more about this.
Thanks. Yes, yeah. The ending date is June next year, so we still have time. We haven't the final results yet, but definitely we're interested to contribute to the activities.
Okay, great.
Okay, so now maybe we give the floor to Harry Laus to make his question.
Hello, good morning to all. First of all, thank you very much for the very nice online meeting that you have organized. And I think that it is a really useful event that engages us all together to this cloud continuum activity. One comment on what Uwe also mentioned, and I believe that this can be questioned, let's say, on the common taxonomy that Task Force 2 mentioned about the continuum, the IoT edge cloud, potentially defining the IoT as a building block in the continuum excludes some projects from this that are not IoT projects. If we consider a more generic taxonomy name like Cloud Edge, Far Edge, which Far Edge could be in some cases IoT related, or in other cases could be something else, I think that will facilitate a lot the engagement of projects that are not dealing with IoT. This is a proposal from my side. And the second point is about the event in Brussels, which is, Monique, I think it's very, very interesting and a very good initiative. And the only challenge that I foresee is that we have in parallel SNS projects running and activities already scheduled for early May. My request will be, if possible, before fixing the date, if we could have a doodle with some alternative dates that we could select the most convenient. That is also another request from my side. Thank you all, and again, congratulations on this very interesting event.
Thank you, Harry Laus. Yes, Rute, we are actually very close to finalizing a draft of the agenda and date. So yeah, we will confirm very soon when this event's gonna be. I don't know if other questions are there, but we're almost approaching the end of the hour. So I don't see anything else in the chat. I will stop sharing my screen. Okay. Don't see any raised hand, if I'm not wrong. Nothing else in the chat. So I think if you like, before saying goodbye, we could all turn our cameras on and maybe try to have an online picture of this meeting that you can use as you prefer in your channels, and we will publish, of course, also in our EU Cloud-Edge-IoT community. So
just 1 second, because I need to screenshot the three. We
are too many.
Yeah. Smile. So second is done. Now third, with a lot of people with their cameras off, but no problem. Maybe you are shy. So smile. Okay, and we are all.
Okay, so thanks, Katarina, for taking the pictures. And thank you all really for joining, being very, very active and raising a lot of questions and comments in the chat. We're looking forward to start cooperating with you. And I wish you all a very nice day and continuation of this week. We'll send you the recordings and slides after this event.
Okay.